to my knowledge, then we are on step number C, or step C of number 18. And right now, our project looks like this. So there's not very much in it right now. All right. Again, we're going to keep adding to it. I do want to mention too, you'll see this a little later, but I want to say this now. Notice that when I right mouse clicked on here, and if we say edit ID, that's what it says, right? I think you'll all agree with that. However, if you look here, you'll notice that it has an @ sign and a plus sign in there. All right, and that's the convention for naming these things. Part of that has to do, just so you know, you'll see this later on in here, but I want to mention it to you now, that when you use the @ sign and the plus sign, it allows you to do, for lack of better words, there's a term for it, but I don't remember what it is. It's forward referencing or something like that. Because what I can do is I can sit there and actually have something listed in here, all right, where something else that's in there. So, for instance, right now, does this make sense to you? That eventually this label is going to pertain to this. Does that make sense? All right. But it's possible that I might have something that's in here that I'm not going to actually reference till down here. So basically, by putting that @ sign and that plus sign, it says, hey, if you got any problems with what I'm doing, it's going to be reconciled later. All right? And I'm being very generic in the way I'm describing this, but that's basically why it's used that way. It's the syntax, but that's why they created the syntax like that. All right? Okay, so jumping back then. It says drag a medium text view onto the grid layout node in the outline window. All right, change it to a mount display text view and leave the default text as is. So the same way we've been doing it. All right, and now I forgot already what it was. So it was a medium text view. So that's what we want to do. All right, you've already seen that. Again, that was up here. There's the medium. I'm going to drag it right here. Boom, and put it in there. All right. Now notice by default what it does. We have said that everything, that right now what we're putting in here, the stuff that we're putting in, row 1, column 0, row 0, column 0, row 0, column 1. Row 1, column 0, row 1, column 1. Does that make sense? That's what we've told it. So it thinks that's where we want this to go right now. Does all that make sense? And Mike's shaking his head yes, and I believe him. But the thing is, remember what this said at the beginning. This said first, this says first we want to add the first row, and it's putting something in row 2. So we're going to fix that next. It's going to change in just a minute. All right. Okay. If you look up here, I want to mention this. All right. The two of them just mentioned that when they put that text view in, it took up the entire screen basically. All right. That's going to have something to do later with what we talk about when you use wrap content and match parent. When we change that, that's going to change. All right. So even if that happens, don't let that bother you. What it's saying right now is it's set right now to basically fill up the rest of the area. That's the way yours is set. It'll be fixed in a matter of minutes. All right. Don't worry if it's not lined up. Again, we're going to work on all that stuff in just a second. All right. All right. So yours may look like mine. Yours may look a little different than mine. And also notice that right now we've got some things there that are giving us warnings. See that up here where I've got this? It's got the exclamation point with the triangle. Don't let that worry you. That stuff will be rectified once we've built the entire GUI. All right? So, jumping back, as it says. So we've gone through and we just did this. We just dragged the medium text view out there. All right? And as it says, note that this initially placed it into the next row. We want it to be in the first row. So what we have to do in order to do that is with this highlighted, the first thing we want to do, as always, is right mouse click on it and choose Edit ID. All right, so that's the first thing that we want to do there. And we want to call this Amount Display Text View. So it looks like this, not X view. Text view. All right. Now, I'm going to say this, and probably it makes sense to you, and if it does, good. This is Ditel's convention for naming things. You know how I told you, for example, for years with Microsoft, if you had a button, it was BTN followed by the name of the button. Then Microsoft changed. So if you had a button that was called Clear, you would name it BTN, capital C, little EALEAR. Okay? Then they changed it and they said, no, leave the name button on there and put the word Clear at the end. Some people don't like that convention, so they still use the old one. Some people use their own convention. This happens to be Ditel's. What they believe in doing is keep the name of whatever the widget is, and that's what these are referred to as, are widgets, and then just at the beginning of it, append what it is, what it's signifying. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying do you like it or not, I'm just saying that's the way they do things. All right, and it'll make sense if you use their naming convention. Now, if Teresa were to raise her hand and say, I don't like it, so I use my own, that's okay. But then everywhere in the code that I give you that you're using this, if you change it to something else, you're going to have to change it to that in code. All right, yes. No, no. There's probably just as many people who use the old form as the new form. Some people don't use anything. They just call a clear button clear. That's not wrong either. All right. The bottom line is, you know, I had this talk with a student a long time ago. Literally, normally, there's not code police. Your boss doesn't care what you call it. All right. If you called it X and Y and Z, they'd probably care because whoever had to go and, you know, and end up maintaining it for you later would probably be confused. But the point is, this is their standard way of doing things. If I've watched Paul Ditel, who's the son. I've watched his tapes. He is an unbelievably smart guy. He's got a degree from MIT, and he's about the most deliberate person I've ever heard. His tapes, his voice is always kind of like this. No, it's not really. I mean, but he's always in control, and then he'll sometimes let me go, now, let's go back and look at what we just did. But the difference is, he doesn't have 2 hours to try to give you 4 hours worth of material. All right? That's why, one of the reasons I said at the beginning, that's why I told IT, I want to tape these things. Because if I screw up, and if a student goes back and does this and say, I think you screwed up, I want to know. And I'm never too proud to say I screwed up. But some people learn by going back and watching it over and over and over again. Now that's your opportunity to do that. All right. So I've got a mount display text view. I clicked OK. Okay, so boom, everything's cool over here. I want to click over here, and as it says on the bottom here of step 18 in part C, it says to move it to the second column of the first row, it says set the text views row to 0. Come on. All right, so it says come down here, and sometimes you got to search for these things. All right, because sometimes they're out under other things. And the real bad thing, and again, if I say this and you laugh, I didn't make these rules up, okay? What you might find out is there's a thing here that's called row, and then you might go in and click and open up another one, and you might find that has a thing in there that's called row. Sometimes they go and they take some of these things and they're in there in 2, 3, or 4 places. And the thing is, if you put the wrong one in, you'll know when you run the program and it doesn't do what you want it to do. But a lot of it is literally, it's a feeling out type of process. Notice, I'm not changing this, but notice again, remember if I do this and I go to edit text, I'm not going to change it, but notice I could edit the text right now, okay? And I could literally put it in right here if I wanted to. I'm not going to. But I could also, see that? I can also come right down there and change it. There's always multiple ways of doing the same thing. One advantage of going through this way and then going through the next one that we do in fall another way is now you've learned at least a couple ways. And one way might, well, that makes a lot of sense. Then that's the way you should use it. All right. So I'm going to come in here as it says, and I believe that's the right one. I want this into row 0. All right. And I want this into column 1. All right. And you may not or may not be able to tell. You go, wait a minute, Jeff, it's kind of screwed up now. It's on top of the other one. That'll be fixed later. All right, under layout parameters. Yours originally, the layout parameters was not open. So I opened it up. What's that? It won't be, okay? If you've got it 0 and 1, it'll eventually fix itself up. But we're going to get to that in just a bit. So I've now got my first row filled in. Again, yours may not look exactly like this. It eventually should. How's that? It should eventually. All right? Okay, so jumping back now. Next, we're going to add the second row. Notice that second row will have a text view, and it'll have a seek bar in it. All right? And so we're going to put a medium text view out there that we're going to call custom % text view. Then a seek bar that we're going to call custom tip seek bar. What's that? Yeah, it will. All right. If it's really bugging the hell out of you, if yours right now is taking up that whole thing, and I don't know if what I'm about to tell you will fix it or not, but the one that's taking up all that space, highlight all of it. All right, just highlight that particular control. And someplace in here, and again, like I said, I may have to search for it, but someplace in here, it's hidden under one of these things. It says either match parent or wrap content. If it says match parent, you got to change it to wrap content or vice versa, and that should fix it. All right. In fact, I want to show you this. You're not going to hear the sound because I'm going to bring up real quickly. I want to show you this because this goes back to what, especially like I said, if this is driving you nuts. I found this morning. All right, and I'm going to literally type right in my address bar, Android, if I can spell it, match parent versus wrap content. And one of these things I looked at this morning, what's the difference between this? I don't know. It's one of these first three. It's not that one. It's not Stack Overflow. It might be this one. I don't know. There you go. All right. Why am I showing you this? Because the guy gives you a 5-minute video. All right. That's why. And I'm not saying it's the best video in the world or anything else, but it's right here. And I'll leave that up there for a second. You don't have to type it in. All right. But I'll leave it up there so if you watch the tape later, you can see it. And I'll save this out there onto the P drive, okay? I'll save it out there under a folder with today's date on it. But if you look, especially those of you who yours is taking up a lot of room, this is like 5 minutes long, I think it was, and someplace in here, somewhere near the beginning, what he does is he says, let's talk about what the difference between these is. All right, and he says, okay, I've got this chicken right here. And he says, right now, notice where it's set to. All right? And then he changes it, and I think it's from match parent to wrap content. And once he changes it, the only thing you see is this, just that one, because it takes up the entire screen. And he does a really nice job of explaining that, much better than I could do. I'm tired of explaining stuff and getting it backwards for you. So again, I'd recommend that you take a look at that. It's not going to hurt anything with what you've got right now. All right, that's all I can tell you. Yeah, we're going to get into all that in just a second. Okay? All right. So I'm going to do this stuff right here. I'm going to do the second row right there. Okay, so I'm going to drag the medium text view out, and I'm going to grab and drag the seek bar out. Okay? So, same kind of thing. I don't need his video right now, so I'm going to come back to here. All right. And again, I'm going to go back up here, grab that medium text, throw it right up there. There it is. Right mouse click on it, choose Edit ID, and I think that this one was called, this is Custom % Text View. All right, so Custom % Text View, that's the first thing that we're told to add right there. And again, leave the text the way it is, the actual text where it says medium text. Just change the ID to Custom % Text View. Make sure Update References. Click OK. Now that's been changed. Good. Now I want to grab a seek bar. All right. And what's kind of cool is to just look out here and say, well, geez, I wonder where that could be. Because I don't remember most of the time. I think that might be under form widgets. Yeah, there it is. There's the seek bar. See, it looks like a seek bar. And if you put your mouse on it, it's like John said, if that's easier for you to have the text there and not have the picture, then do that. All right. So I'm going to grab that, drag that out there, and let go. And there's my seek bar. All right. Again, seek bar 1, silly name, so we'll edit the ID. And we're told to call that custom tip seek bar. Now, back in the day, and nobody's done this yet, but you might have thought of this, because back in the day, people would say stuff to me like, that's way too much typing. But remember, like Visual Studio, Eclipse has got IntelliSense. So when you start putting in code and you type in custom, it's going to show you your possibles. So you don't have to ever type all that in. It's one of the nice things with IntelliSense today. All right, so custom seek bar, so we've got that in. I'm going to click OK. Okay, so I've got those two in. All right. Now I'm on step 20 here. Now look at this. It says next we will add a third row to the UI by first adding a linear layout. Do you remember how I mentioned to you, and for example, I think we even looked a little bit at that Brandy's Bagel thing when we were talking about layouts. And I said, for example, that you could have like a border layout with your north, south, east, and west. And inside of there, you could have a different, inside of your north, for example, you could have a different kind of layout in there. All right, so you could put a grid in there, for example. We did that with the Brandy's Bagels. Remember, we had the grid that had 2 columns in it. So you had your different condiments and whatever that you put in there, that kind of stuff. This is kind of the same thing in here that they're talking about on step 20. So what the author is saying is, we're first going to add a linear layout. All right. Why? So inside of that linear layout, we can add other things. Now, this said, you might say, well, why didn't the author do this in the last row? Wouldn't it have made more? I don't know. I'm not Dytel. But he's showing you a way of doing this where they're trying to introduce a lot of stuff to you. I mean, think about this. This has already been, for lack of better words, heady enough. Just doing this as a class and learning a few things. And why am I telling you that? What have we not done a bit of yet? That would be write any code. We haven't even talked about the code and how this stuff is affected by code. We haven't even done that yet. We're just trying to get somewhat of a comfort level for building an interface. That's all. All right. Why? Because most, not all, but guess what? Most of the code that you're going to see in here, you're already going to understand it. Because guess what? It's Java. Now we're going to put it under things you didn't see before because you didn't work with a seek bar before. All right. But the kind of code that we put in there, you'll go, oh, that's pretty similar to something we did when we did this program or when we did that program. That's one of the reasons I made the decision to do a lot of programs as a class. So you see this stuff and hopefully it sticks with you. All right. All right. So again, going through the whole thing, we're going to add first this linear layout, and that's in here. Then, as it says, we're going to drag 2 medium text views. But when we drag that, we want it to go into that linear layout. So rather than taking that and dragging it and putting it right here like I just did, in just a second we're going to have another layout down here. I want to drag it over to there. Does that make sense? If you do it to the wrong one and you put it up here, you're going to have to manually move it then, or else remove it and then do it again. So there's a lot of ways that it can be done if you screw something up. All right? Now hopefully you realize, in all seriousness, and again, really, I think, I'm not saying that we have to stop and bow down or clap hands, but I really do thank John for everything that he's done. Because think of it, we wasted 3 weeks getting to this point. We would have been done with this one already, and we would have been started on a second one. I guarantee you, we would have been. All right. But we're going through this now, and again, like I said, much better now, so we can hit the floor running in spring. All right, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so I'm going to follow what they said. So I'm on step 20. So the first thing I want to do is to drag out a linear layout. So again, I want to look in here. Well, I would think linear layouts would probably be a good place to look for that would be layouts. All right. And yeah, but I'm just saying that would seem to me to be a good place to look for it. Some of this stuff is intuitive when you're looking for different controls, and some of it's not. I mean, literally, when you think about it, they could have put everything right here. They literally could have stuck everything there is under form widgets, because even this, they are widgets. Every control that you put on here on your GUI is considered a widget. All right. So I'm going to grab that, what is it, linear layout horizontal. Now I can drag that up here, and it should put it down here. That's what I wanted. Good. All right. And we're supposed to rename this percent linear layout. Same kind of way. Right mouse click, assign ID, percent linear layout. All right. I will tell you, just so you know, and please listen to this, I think that, you know, I in one of Ditel's old versions of one of their books, what they had you do was they didn't have you remove anything in here. They would just have you keep going in and renaming this, renaming that, redoing this, redoing. That can be really dangerous. Sometimes, if you think, you know, I'm just really hosed here, sometimes it's better if, you know, it's like if that really bugged the hell out of me with that X there, and it does because there's nothing in it yet. There's a layout with nothing in it. That's why I'm getting that X. But if that bugs you, then just highlight it, hit delete, and do it again. All right? So that's the first thing that we wanted to do was that. All right. Now, so I'm in the middle of step 20 here. Drag two medium text views onto the percent linear layout node. Rename them percent 15 text view and percent custom text view. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to come back up to here. I'm going to find my medium text views. And I'm going to drag the first one, drag it in here, let go. And I'm going to drag the second one, drag it there, and let go. Then I'll come back and rename them. The order in which you do these is moot. But please look up here. Again, can you see how it gives you a hierarchical structure? You can tell by looking at this now that everything up till this point right there, up until our linear layout, that they're all children of the grid. But these two are children of the linear layout. All right, so there is some substance, some stuff in there that makes sense when you take some time to do it. I will tell you, because what I'm about to say, this is human nature. I watch people do this every semester. All right, and maybe I should change the way I do it. Maybe Denny does it the right way, because when he teaches people, he spends a lot of time from the command line. All right, the reason I don't do that is once you learn that, you don't ever use that command line again. That's why. And I go back to the thing I told you before. I remember asking the teacher, why the heck did you teach us long division when we're never going to use it again? Because it made understanding short division easier for you. I'm not saying that's true or false. All right? But the point is, people get so wrapped up in their GUIs that they think they got to paint the GUI right away before they do a darn thing. What Ditel says, and you'll see this when we get to the book next semester, but is first actually sit there and map out, even if it's on a piece of paper, what you want the app to look like. Figure out the type of layout or layouts you're going to use and the type of controls you're going to use, rather than just throwing junk out there. Oh, I don't need that. Oh, I need that. Oh, I should have done this. Now, think about it first. All right? Because what might end up happening is you might have a program in a book, and you might say, you know, Jeff, I changed this, and you might make it a hell of a lot better than it was. All right? I'm telling you this, and again, not to put myself on a pedestal, but I'll always remember this, that when I took my first real programming class, it was a COBOL class, and my teacher was Terry Waldvogel. The guy literally was 6 months older than I was. He was right out of college, four-year college, and that was his first teaching job. But he gave us the first program, and I got it to work. And I said, Terry, I think I could make this work better, but I'd like to totally redesign it. He told me that as soon as I told him that, he knew I was going to be all right. He didn't know if I'd be an A student or not, but he knew I was going to be all right. The only thing he gave me was the best advice ever, and that was make sure you work with a copy, because I did screw it up royally. So I screwed up the copy. All right, and I still had my original. But when I got done, he liked it so much, he said, do you mind if I use this? And he used it as a template in his classes later. Because, again, I don't want you to be thinking in the box here. My hope is that when it's May and all of you who are in here hopefully are going to be in that design and implementation project class. You're all doing something that's really different. But if there's 8 of you and you do 8 projects that are the same, that's a waste of their time for coming here. All right, it is. All right. So we've got those 2 things. The first thing we were supposed to do is to go back and edit the ID of the first one, and instead of text view, this is supposed to be %15 text view. And you can see by looking at this, totally legit to have numbers in there, but as with many other things, you can't start it with a number. All right. So %15 text view for the first one, and the second one will be %custom text view. And I'm just going to cheat here. I'm going to grab that, copy, click OK, go to my second one, edit the ID, paste that in, and change it from 15 to custom. All right. So our first one was %15 text view. The second one should be %custom text view. All right, click OK. All right, and there those are. All right. Now it says place the %linear layout and its 2 nested text views in the second column of the grid layout by selecting the %. So in other words, select this, select the layout itself, and then go down to properties and find the column and make sure that it's set to 1 and hit enter. You go, it's not 1, it moved it way over. Don't worry about it. Okay, it'll be fine. And actually, when you say, why did it do that? Because what is the first column? It's not column 1, it's column what? 0, which it was by default. That's why, like I said, I personally don't like dragging this stuff myself. I'd rather build it this way. I like that better because then I don't concentrate on this and I don't see all this stuff. I've already had it where I've had stuff, watch my mouse, I've had stuff hanging out over here and I got to keep dragging this thing over to make sure that it's even there, and I don't like that. Now if you don't have a problem with that, then that's the way you should build it. It's not a problem. All right, so we've got the first 3 rows, so we're up to step 21. What's that? No, just column. Should be there. All right. So I think we'll have time to do step 21. Let's see. So it says, again, next we will add a 4th row to the GUI by adding 2 text views and a linear layout to the grid view again. All right. And I don't know why he did this. All right. But he put it in that order, and I guess I shouldn't have. He told you to do these first, and then he said drag those into the linear layout. So I think you're best off doing it in the same order that we did the last one. In other words, put the linear layout in first, then add the 2 text views. Does that make sense? All right. So what I'm saying is I'm going to do it in the same order that we did the last one. So I'm going to jump back into here. Okay. And again, I'm on step 21, which is the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4. All right. So it says, again, we will now do the 4th row. So I'm going to start with go to layouts, and I'm going to go to, again, to linear layout, horizontal, and I'm going to just drag it up there to my grid layout and let go. I thought I did. Sure, I'll do it again. I'm not that way. There it is. All right. And this one we're going to call what? Tip linear layout. So I'm going to, again, now just go to assign ID and go to tip linear layout. All right. So we've got that done. There it is. And again, we get the X. Just a sec. You notice that X went away that was over here because we filled it up. We put stuff in there. Yes. What step? No, what I just said was, that's the way Dytel put it in his book. So I put it in that way. I think it makes more sense to do it in the same order we just did the other one. So now that I've got Now that I've got the linear layout, now I'm going to go and grab two medium texts and drop them right in there. Because that's what we're supposed to do. Is there three? Well, let's go back. It's always, the answer is always in looking at, this is what we're building here, all right? So when you look at this, all right, right here, this is what we've done so far. We've done row 1, all right? We've done row 2. We've done row 3, and that's what we just pushed over. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're saying is this, the tip, isn't supposed to be in there and these two are. Is that what you're saying? You're probably right. All right? Okay, and that's fine. Well, we can fix that. That's not a big thing. All right? And actually, it gives me a chance to show something. I screwed it up, but not on purpose. So now I'm going to go grab one of those medium text views, and I'm going to drag it here. So it puts it down there. All right? And where do I want that? Technically, I want it, I think, up here, right? You know, I want it like above this. All right, so is that going to screw things up? Well, what if I do this? What if I do a Control X? All right, and I come down here. There's actually a better way than what I'm just showing you right here. But I think I can come up here and paste. No, didn't like it. It moved it up there. There's one of these that's up here that allows you, there is something that allows you to change where stuff is located. I don't remember what it is right now. All right. The other thing I can do too, the other thing is what I can do, I can remove that, remove that, remove that, remove that, come back in here, just come in and do my medium text view first of all, put it in there, boom, then come in, go to layouts, add my linear horizontal, put that in there, boom. Still didn't like that. All right, and then come in and add my two medium text views. And I'll come back and change the names in just a second. But I believe that's what the author wants. All right, I think that's what you're saying. You are correct. I was incorrect. So, in other words, you say, well, now I'm totally hosed. Just remove everything after that first linear layout where you put these two text views in. So have that be the bottom. So in other words, I'll just do it again. So if yours looks, you know, this is how it looked before we did anything, right? That's what yours looked like. So what I'm saying is come back in here, go to the medium text view right here, drag it on top of our grid layout at the top. Just a sec. And let go. So there's the first one. All right, after you do that, go to layouts. Find the linear layout horizontal. Click on that, drag, and drop that on the grid layout. So there's that. Then go in again to the form widgets and grab two medium text views and drag them into that linear layout. And in all seriousness, I'm not saying this to be funny. You may or may not agree with what I'm about to tell you, but probably with everybody in here, I'm probably the least dexterous person. So if I can do it, you can all do it. Yes. The question is, can you just go in here and drag it around? The answer is yes. All right, you can do it there too. All right, sometimes it gets to be more confusing doing that. Yeah, yeah. But I've done that, and it doesn't go where I want it to go. Now I'm clicking, and now I've actually got two of them highlighted, so now I'm moving two things. And then I start swearing, and then like Mark said, then I start using Control-Z all over the place. So it's whatever you're most comfortable with is what you should be using. All right? All right, so I'm going to come here. I'm not even sure right now what that one's called, so I'm not going to worry about it, but I'm going to name the other stuff. So I'm going to rename this, and it says that this thing should be called, again, percent linear layout. Okay, so there's that. And the first text view that's in there is percent 15 text view, and the second one is percent custom text view. What's that? Okay, okay, okay. That's okay. Yeah. Oh, this one is supposed to be. Oh, okay. All right, thank you. It's supposed to be tip. All right. All right. So under tip linear layout, so then this is wrong too then. Oh, that's because I'm on step 21, not step 20. So this is. Tip 15 text view and tip custom text view. That's that. And doesn't like something that's in here. So I think that where that said percent up there, that might have been wrong. That should have been percent 15. Okay, so there's percent 15, percent custom tip. So now this should be tip 15. Oops. And that one should be tip custom. All right. Now it's still giving me red. I'm not sure why, but I believe now. Okay, so that one was. Hold on. That's tip, and that's tip. So this is all host. So I'll have to fix this. All right. Yeah. Because they both have the same name. That's why. Because I hosed it up. See, I didn't exhibit patience where I should have. All right. So this one is wrong. The good news is, if you say, hey, the good news is, all right, you know, if you say, well, this is just totally hosted up, you know what? And if I sound like an ass, I'm sorry, then do it yourself. Start all over. You've got the handout. Do it yourselves. I believe you. I believe yours is a hell of a lot better than mine is. Is it changing them both? Yep. I may have to, I may have to delete it, get it the way I want it to be, and then, all right, which is fine. All right, let's change this one. So let's see. This is tip linear layout, so I don't think that's even right now. I think that one should be. This should be percent linear layout. You know, what I just so you know, because this is me. So when you're all sitting there laughing because I'm screwing up, believe me, I'm laughing at you. Not to be mean, but I'll tell you why I'm laughing at you. Because this stuff doesn't matter at all. This is just the GUI. If you know how to program in Java, people could give a rat's ass whether or not you can create a GUI, because they can teach you that. They can't teach you to code. A company that hires you, if you have bad GUIs, they'll let you know, and they'll have somebody work with you, even if it's a designer. But you're a hell of a lot more valuable as a developer than you are as a designer. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about designers. They're very, very talented people. All right? But the people who write the code, many times, are few and far between. Oops. And what I will do, I'm going to make sure I do two things. Before next class, I'm going to do two things. The first is I will save everything that I've done thus far, everything. I'll save that and I'll put it out there on the system. Plus, I'll take the finished one and I'll put that out there. That'll all be out there by Tuesday. I guarantee it. All right, by the time we start class on Tuesday. All right, now I believe that all the stuff that's in there, I think, is correct. All right, so the first thing we wanted to do in step 21 was to call this, no, this is 21. That was step 20 we just finished. So this one we wanted to put this out there and call this tip text view. No, this is still the text view. We didn't do the layout yet. So now I think everything that's in here is right. All right, so now I'm going to attempt to come in here and make a new one of these linear horizontal layouts and drag it up here. There it is. Right mouse click on this, choose Assign ID, and that should be % linear layout. We've already got, no, we've got % linear layout. So this one should be step 21. This should be tip linear layout. Now that one changed and the other one didn't. See that? That's good. All right, now I want to go back up to here and add 2 medium text views. There's one. There's the other. All right, right mouse click on the first, edit my ID. And this will be tip 15 text view. And the other one, as Mark said, will be tip custom text view. So now, as far as I know, we've got the first 4 rows completed. All right, so we are through step 20. No, we're on step 22 now. We're on step 22. And I'm done, but I just want to show you this. If you look on the screen right here. What the author is saying is right now, we haven't put in that last row yet. But other than that, the author is saying that is this. And that's pretty much what it looks like right now. The only thing is we don't have this last row. All right? Now, I want to show you something. I'm done, but I want to show you this. Okay? The chances of me showing you this and having it work perfectly the way today's worked are 0, but I'm going to try it anyway. I don't care. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to, first of all, if you haven't done it in a while, probably a fine time to do a save all on there. All right. The next thing they ask us to do, though, is they're telling us that basically this row, all right, that we were just putting in here with a tip linear layout that we're doing for step 21 is virtually the same for 22. Did you hear what I said? It's virtually the same thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of them, do a control, and I'm going to choose copy, and I'm going to come back up to the top, and I'm going to do a control, and I'm going to choose paste. And see what it did? It copied everything down. Now all I have to do now is go in there and change those IDs. Now, if I did that too fast, or you didn't like it, you can manually do it. But I just wanted to show you, if you've got a very complex GUI that you're creating, and let's say that it's 2 halves and they're very similar, you could create the first half, copy it, and then just copy it over to the second half and make your changes. You don't have to do that, but to me, what I just said, that made sense. You may or may not agree with that. So that's now Mark's right. He was just ahead of himself. That now is step 22. All right? So I want to come back to the linear layout. And I guess what I didn't do? That top text view right there? I didn't do that. It's all right. It's all right. Hit delete. It's gone. Now do this. And there it is. All right. So I will fix this quick. Give me 5 minutes. I will save this. I will take my entire folder if it helps you. But what I'm asking is that what I'd like you to do is by Tuesday of next week when we start, go through your own copy or use mine. I don't care. All right? But we're going to pick it up on step 23 that's on the middle of page 4. Does that make sense to everyone? All right? Once we get through steps 23 and 24, basically everything that comes after that, that's now putting the aesthetic stuff on there. That'll be adding the text, and we'll be able to go over some other stuff. I was more concerned with today just building the GUI, and we've almost got that done. All right. Sure. I think he's spending too much time with the old man. No? Yeah, that's why I was hoping we get to that point today where we could talk about that match, and I realized we probably wouldn't. That's why I showed you that site, so you can take a look at it. Where the heck is that? Well, that's sure interesting. Oops, that's why. Okay. I don't want to do that. Get rid of this. Did you guys get a lot done? I heard her on the phone trying to get admin permissions and a bunch of other stuff, so. Well, she sounded like she was, at least as far as I could tell, fairly pleased with the way things were going. So, yeah, that's good. Well, I suppose too, if they decide they want any of the staff there, and if they don't have pictures of them, they could add that. that said, um, keep her on track as best you can. Steve was, I mean, actually in a lot of ways a lot like you, just very, very personable. All right, but after a while he was going nuts because he sent her he was sending her 6 emails a week and she was not getting back to him at all. Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is, I would never have guessed that. You know what I'm saying? I would not have guessed that she would have been into something like that. I just wouldn't have. There's nothing wrong with it, but I'm just surprised because I would have thought that she would have been into email or telephone, even telephone. I couldn't believe she not a good telephone answer her. Yeah, yeah, whatever works for her, right? Yeah. All right, so I've got those two are done. Grab, match. Oh, put this in there. That's not here. Okay, so that's here. Page drive. A little bit. Yeah, I can show you that thing. Yeah. In fact, I can show you that in about 40, in about 45 seconds. That's good. All right. All right, there is now a folder out there on the P drive, both zipped and unzipped with today's date on it. It's got my project up till this point. It's got a PDF of the handout I gave you. It's got the handout I gave you, and it's got that URL for it's on there. All right, so that's the URL. All that stuff's out there. All right, so let me bring this up. Let's see. It's not much. Yeah, you're right, but I gotta see, make sure first I have it. So there it is. thought of making the other side gold, or a green rather, but it just didn't look good. No. And you can sort of tell, but when it's highlighted, that's supposed to be green too, but it didn't come out very well either. But all the headings. I didn't have the software to go in and play with this because this was a JPEG. But I thought of doing that, just bringing this up in Paint, the picture, and changing database to green, and put some gold in there or something like that, or somehow try to highlight Wisconsin in here. But then after a while, that's a little too much.